The name Tonya Harding has weighed heavy on her shoulders for years, something that only a few professional athletes ever have to deal with. Even people who never once saw figure skating remember the scandal, the gossip, and the constant headlines, which seem to follow her wherever she went. So, the story has been so repeatedly retold that what really happened threatens to get lost in the din. But now, aged 54, Tonya herself has finally made up her mind to tell it straight. What she says doesn't just recall a moment that stunned the world. It makes us see that night and her all over again. Early life and career. Tonya Maxine Harding was born on November 12, 1970, in Portland, Oregon. She grew up with parents Leovona Golden and Albert Harding, struggling to get by while raising her. Tonya's father held various jobs, managing apartment complexes, truck driving, and even owning a bait and tackle shop, but his poor health frequently prevented him from being consistently employed. Her mom, Leovona, was a waitress and sewed Tonya's figure skating costumes by hand because they couldn't afford expensive ones. Money was never plentiful, but Tonya's love of skating was evident at an early age. She began skating when she was only 3 years old with the help of Coach Diane Rawlinson. Tonya's early childhood was not simple. She later testified that her mom frequently physically and emotionally abused her. Leovona once confessed to striking Tonya at a roller skating rink, although others have contended that the manner in which her life was presented in the film Tonya made things more dramatic. Regardless, life at home for Tonya was difficult, and soon skating became her retreat. Besides the skating, she learned also how to do auto mechanics with her dad, hunted, and even participated in drag racing. In 1987, at age 16, her parents divorced. She shortly thereafter dropped out of high school to skate full-time, but later acquired her GED in 1988. She spent the decade of the 1980s climbing the competition rungs, placing 6th in the 1986 U.S. Championships, 5th in 1987 and 1988, and then 3rd in 1989. In October of that year, she took Skate America, making others aware she was a serious threat. Her greatest breakthrough occurred in 1991. At the U.S. Championships, Tonya landed a triple axel, a jump so hard that no American woman had ever landed it in competition previously. She didn't just land one, she aced 7 triple jumps in her program and scored some of the highest technical marks ever at the event. The same year at the World Championships, she repeated the triple axel, coming in second behind Christy Yamaguchi and in front of Nancy Carrion. Tonya made history once more at Skate America in September 1991 as the first lady to double axel in a short program, the first to double 2 in one competition, and the first to double it in combination. But after that phenomenal year, she was never able to get the jump down successfully again in competition. Her career began to decline, although she continued to push through. She finished 3rd at the 1992 U.S. Championships on an ankle injury, and then went on to compete at the Winter Olympics that year, finishing 4th. Her subsequent seasons were not as good, but by this time, Tonya Harding had already entered figure skating history books as one of the most revolutionary athletes on the ice. Family betrayal and tragedy. As Tonya Harding's career as a skater was unfolding, her off-ice life was marred by the painful memories of torture that left emotional scars. One such darkest chapter was provided by her own family. In her own authorized biography, The Tonya Tapes, Tonya revealed how she was tortured by her half-brother Chris Davidson. She uncovered that Davidson had continually tormented and abused her while she was a child, something that exacerbated an already troubled home life she shared with her controlling mother. Tonya could finally take no more. In 1986, when she was still an adolescent, she called the police after Davidson's harassment and menacing turned into too much for her. He was caught and did a brief stint in jail. But the pain he inflicted on Tonya never dissipated. Worse than that was her parents' response. Rather than standing by her completely, Tonya claimed her parents dismissed or minimized Davidson's behavior, telling her not to report the incident. For a young girl already struggling to pursue Olympic aspirations while existing in an unpredictable home, this was yet another devastating blow. Then in 1988, disaster. Chris Davidson was murdered in a hit-and-run accident, an unsolved case to this day. For most families, the loss would be cataclysmic, but not for Tonya, whose feelings were more complex. In a 1994 interview, she confessed that Davidson was the only person she really hated and the only one whom she didn't feel should be forgiven. Those phrases gave a glimpse of how far the wounds had cut and how much the abuse had affected the way she perceived him. This dark part of Tonya's life hardly ever gets reported on in relation to her skating history or the scandal for which she is now infamous. But it demonstrates what kind of personal struggles she had well before the world was paying attention. The attack that shocked the world. January 6, 1994, was the day that figure skating was forever altered. Only a day before the ladies' singles event at the U.S. Figure Skating Championships, reigning champion Nancy Kerrigan was brutally assaulted after completing a practice session at Detroit's Cobo Arena. The attack took place in an otherwise silent corridor. But within a matter of hours, it was front-page news everywhere. As Nancy walked behind a curtain, a mysterious man made a sudden dash towards her. His name was Shane Stant. With a 21 inches telescoping baton, he swung both hands and cracked Nancy squarely above the right knee. Simple but vicious was the intention, to hurt her severely enough to prevent her from competing in the Nationals and, much more important, from competing in the Winter Olympics to come. The instant was atrocious. Cameras caught up in the aftermath. Nancy screaming in agony, holding her leg and uttering the chilling question, "Why me?" That tape ran incessantly on TV, astonishing the world. Stant was not working independently. He subsequently admitted and surrendered to the FBI on January 14th, a week and a half after the assault. The investigators found that Stant and his uncle, Derek Smith, had been paid to perform the job. Who hired them? Tonya Harding's former husband, Jeff Gallioli, and Harding's so-called bodyguard, Shot Eckert. Their intention was to get Kerrigan out of contention so that Harding would have a better chance of winning. The attack had initially been poorly carried out. Stant had initially visited Massachusetts to locate Kerrigan, but was unable to find her. Refusing to be defeated, he rode over 20 hours on the bus to Detroit, where he proceeded to commit the attack. Although the blow did not fracture NY's leg, it caused serious bruising that compelled her to drop out of the championships. She could not defend her title in the U.S., a devastating result for one of the sport's brightest stars. Later that week, on January 8th, Tonya Harding took the U.S. championship just 2 days after Kerrigan was injured. With Kerrigan out, Harding was at the top. The two women were eventually selected to represent the United States at the 1994 Winter Olympics. The assault was one of the greatest sports scandals in history, not only due to the brutality, but also due to the plot behind it. A sport marred with beauty and elegance found itself involved in crime, betrayal, and international media attention. To some, it was a moment in which Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan's names would be inextricably linked, no matter how far apart their lives had been. Interviews, arrests, and denials. In the days immediately following the brutal attack on Nancy Kerrigan, eyes were cast in the direction of Tonya Harding and those who were around her. 5 days after the attack, on January 11th, 1994, a televised interview with Cohen V took place in Harding's hometown, Portland, Oregon. Asked the question during the interview that was probably on everybody's mind, can you rule out the possibility somebody close to you was involved in plotting the attack? Harding hesitated and then did confess, "I have definitely thought about it." The discomfort of the moment was further punctuated by Jeff Gallioli, ex-husband, standing behind the camera in her line of sight for the interview. Tonya concluded her declaration with words which heard both defiant and defensive. "No one controls my life but me. If there is something in there that I don't like, I'm going to change it." On a parallel plane, she assured that she'd already spoken to FBI agents in Detroit and Portland as part of the AY investigation. The very next day, January 13, the scandal deepened when police arrested Shauna Hard, Harding's bodyguard, and Derek Smith, Shane Stant's uncle. Both men were directly connected to the attack. The story, which had shocked the skating community, was now a criminal case, which stretched from Detroit to Portland. By January 14th, the United States Figure Skating Association, USFSA, considered it appropriate to make a statement. When asked whether the arrest of Akart may impact Harding's position on the Olympic team, officials gave no other comment other than, "We will deal only with the facts." Harding had as yet not been charged with anything, but suspicion in her direction mounted daily. Harding and Giuliani each retained individual attorneys, but their lawyers went out of their way to indicate the couple was cooperating with authorities. On January 15th, the two even gave appearances before the press, although they declined to answer specific questions regarding the case. Harding's attorney went a step further on January 16th, holding a press conference where he read from a prepared statement. In it, Harding denied any complicity in the plot against Carrion. Later that night, Tonya attempted to get back to some form of normalcy. She went to the rink to practice with her coaches. Reporters tagged along, and though she did take some time to talk to them, it was her skating that stole the show for an instant. During all the storm going on around her, Harding was still able to pull off a triple axel, reminding everyone that amidst the storm, she was still one of the world's best skaters. Harding's confession and the media storm. With the 1994 Winter Olympics approaching, Tonya Harding was training on a daily basis at Oregon's Clackamas Town Center rink. But these were no longer routine training sessions. Rather than coaches and skaters, tens of thousands of curious onlookers and dozens